Jeez, oh man. What? It happened 2 weeks ago, too. I'm having a conversation, it's like,
6 o'clock
oh
bump.
my gosh. Okay, are we on?
Yeah, you're all set.
Okay. Good evening. Welcome to the City of Laconia Conservation Commission meeting for September 8th, 2021. I'm Dean Anson.
Deb Williams?
Wesley Bates.
Lisa Moore.
Michael Foot.
Taylor Daigle?
Okay, so we have a quorum, and we're going to start off with a salute to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
Label. Okay. Okay, so, did anybody look at the minutes from August 18th?
I've got a copy if you want it, but it is on the agenda online as well.
I just looked at them, but nothing seems out of line. I'm willing to move, we accept the minutes of August 18th as presented.
There was one typo.
Yeah, I actually found 3.
Did you
so-
catch it?
Yeah, I haven't fixed them yet, but I was gonna go back and do that tomorrow morning.
It was under Pickle Pond. 7-5.
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
DPW has construction a small gravel parking.
I'll fix that.
Constructed. That was all I saw.
Oh, dear. Taylor, I have managed to get
We
myself.
started without you.
How you
Want me to
doing?
get it back for you?
Yeah, because I'm trying to, the July 7th is the only one that's on this page.
Yeah, of course.
Sorry.
No worries.
Dean,
Oh, that's true.
you know Wes Bates, don't you?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes. Really recognize you with your helmet on there out in the parking lot.
Oh, yeah.
So do you want me to amend the motion? I amend that we accept the minutes of, was it August 18th?
Yeah.
With the correction for spelling?
Okay. Anybody have anything else?
Thank you, Taylor.
Okay. Anybody want to second the motion?
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you. Okay, so we have the Mr. Street boat kiosk, boat ramps kiosk. So we don't have any of these documents on the, on there. I don't think we should put them on at this point.
Okay.
I think what we should do is, Ashley had identified somebody who was going to make a, put a board on, a bigger board than was on there now.
Okay, so I didn't have any contact information for who she was working on with that. I just had DPW. Does anyone know who she was dealing with that?
We can find out, though.
I thought it was.
Who?
We can find out.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm
okay,
not
so
sure.
maybe, and I think that this is the wrong time of year to be putting the board on. We should put it on in the spring.
Yep.
Okay.
And in the meantime, we can get these documents.
Well, they sent me a copy of all of them. Most are laminated in case we couldn't get the plastic board put over it. But I think, aside from 2 of them, I think they will all be relevant, like dates and everything will still be relevant in the spring. So I don't think it'll need updating. So we'll have that ready to go whenever we decide to
Good.
install it.
Could we put up a placard about fishing laws, like a fishing game placard, and that could be put up now on the board that's there? Only because there's nothing there, there's no information.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
And October 1st, they're not allowed to fish in the river, so just that little information would be good.
Well, we could also do something about the loons, no reminder of no lead sinkers or any, just, I mean, I hear them. I don't know where they are, but I hear them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much we want to put on this board, because it's just a temporary
Okay.
board.
All right.
But I think the fishing laws would be good.
Okay.
And maybe some emergency numbers even. Does that
mean
make
like-
sense?
Like 911 kinds of numbers?
Well, or, because I know like down at the Fish and Game ramp, they have the 524-1212 for the police department here.
And probably Marine Patrol, so they keep that.
Yeah, and I mean, that would be another good one to have. I mean,
We can print something out and laminate it.
Yeah.
and put it on,
Yeah,
so that's-
easy
that's-
enough.
I just think it's not a bad idea, because it's kind of, for somebody, if somebody got in trouble in that spot and had to run somewhere to get help, it would be a bit, so.
Okay.
With safety.
For the board, you said it's a temporary board, so is the whole thing gonna be replaced? Or are we just looking for it to be protected from weather, the current one?
I think it was going to be replaced, correct? Yeah,
Right.
because that was just a strand board, so it's not the best.
Okay.
I think it's pressed wood, and it's painted, so the pressed wood is protected, but it's small, and we thought we could have a more professional one.
Okay.
He's
Get
not after you.
Get him?
No,
He's been over here.
Okay, good, thank you. So, of these 5 documents, which one are you missing?
I'm not missing any of them. I just have the Lake Host Program summary and accomplishments, and the annual summary is just not laminated, so if it wasn't protected, it wasn't gonna be able to go up right away, but all the rest I have in here.
Okay,
Do you have a, what is it, bathysphere, bathyographic
yeah, bathymetric.
map of?
So I don't have one right now, but I think I could.
For the spring, that
Yeah,
would be,
I could
yeah.
just easily add that in.
Yeah, I printed it off the web last year,
Yeah. Okay.
and then it got soaked over the winter, so the whole lake ran
right out the bottom.
right out the bottom, kept on going. Okay, anything else on the Messer Street boat ramp? I think, one of the things I would like is for us to find somebody to be a lake host there next year. And I think that we were offering like $12 an hour. We can't, that's not gonna get it. We need to offer more than that.
Well, it wasn't just our ramp, because I talked to the Fish and Game officer this weekend, and he said Newfound, who's always had a lake host, could not find a lake host this summer either. So I think it was a problem for a lot of people, so. But next year, I definitely have a few kids that are turning 16 that could do it. So,
Okay, so maybe the way to do it is to have a portion of this meeting where we explain what a lake host does, the value of it, so that we encourage them. Instead of just saying, hey, we have a position here and we're gonna pay you this amount an hour, we explain the value of what they're doing.
but I think too, if we work with now that we know there is a Lake Opeechee Association, if we work with them also.
Yep.
That they'll be happy to help us fill that position. I think we'll be all right next year.
Has that been resurrected, and who's the head of it?
I know Alan Beadle is involved.
So he used to be the president, and
I
then,
don't know.
Alan
Gothier.
Gothier.
Yes.
okay, so it's a continuation of the Lake Opeechee Preservation Alliance, it used to be the name of it.
I don't know
Okay.
what the name of it is, but I think I will see him Tuesday. And I just want to remind everybody that Tuesday is primary day.
Yeah.
And polls open at 8 o'clock in the morning and close at 6 o'clock at night. So it's primary election,
And it's important.
right?
And I'm not being facetious.
No, you're absolutely right, it is. So I will, I'm gonna work the polls for part of the day, so I think I'll see Alan and I'll mention it to him, and I'll send him an email. Maybe what we do is we ask them to come to this meeting when we're going to train the lake hosts.
I was just gonna say that, we could have them at a meeting, sure.
Because we
Or
need,
meet with them, if, you know, we could go to their meeting, they must have a meeting.
right,
So, yeah.
and, we can ask them to volunteer too, because we need
Yep.
volunteer hours.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, anything else on? Okay, Pickerel Pond. Pickle Pond is, sign is up, parking lot is delineated with stone.
It's kind of just a dirt lot, but it fits a good amount of cars, so.
It looks nice in the picture.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is pretty good, yeah. I think we discussed that, like, at the last meeting, we talked about the ARM fund from Gardens and how that would be utilized, and I know we reached out to Guilford and I reached out to Nick Skegel about projects on Blackbrook, but we were thinking of putting the money towards projects at Pickerel Pond. So we were kind of, I think the applicant was just gonna put Pickerel Pond down as a project idea so that DS is aware, but we were thinking we should brainstorm some ideas about what a next project would be on the site.
Okay, so one of the things we need to know is there is this, what we think, what I think is a well, which is this 3-foot diameter concrete structure that's got a concrete top on it, so it's, you know, nobody's gonna lift this thing up. But we need to know if that is a well, and if it is, then we need to abandon the well. We have to sample it first, because I don't think we sampled it.
We can't just cap it, we have to sample it.
We have to sample it because you abandon it in different ways depending on whether
What's in it?
the water was contaminated or not contaminated, so.
Okay.
And then we have to get a licensed well contractor to do the abandonment. We can't do it ourselves.
We don't ever foresee a time,
I'm sorry?
we don't ever foresee a time we'd want a well? I'm just wondering.
I look at it as more of a hazard.
Because we don't know if it's contaminated or not anyway.
No, because if somebody, a bunch of kids got over there with a couple of steel bars, they could move the top.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
They don't have that much motivation. I'll call it right out. They don't have that much motivation unless they're stealing copper from your house.
Well, I guess what I'm wondering about is like rinsing off whatever boat you put in there, or, I was just,
Yep.
I was just
There's
brainstorming.
something there, yep.
I was just brainstorming, I wasn't saying we had to do that.
But I feel like there was contamination there.
And I can't
You
weigh in
remember
on that, cause
anything?
I don't have any remembrance of it.
You're right, there was.
Feel
And
like-
before we took ownership of the property, we had them sample the wells and the wells
Correct.
came back clean.
Oh, okay,
The groundwater came back clean.
okay.
Yeah.
That's,
So-
'cause I feel like at one time it was arsenic, is that correct? Was that?
No, that was upstream.
Right, it was,
There was a place off from, Meredith Center Road that was caught up in some sort of thing. There was a foundry or some sort of smelting thing which had caused some plumes or contamination, but it had been determined in the testing that we did that there wasn't contamination in those wells, and so it wasn't a part of the thing. I do remember that much.
but those were the traditional groundwater monitoring wells that are about 4 inches in diameter.
Yep.
This is a 3-foot concrete pipe like you would find in a sewer, and it's vertical. So, I guess at some point we need somebody to
Look at it anyway.
lift that thing off and see if there's water in there. If there's no water in there, then
I'm sure there's water
I'm
in
sure
there.
there is,
Yeah.
because
And if
the
it's
water
more-
table can't be very far down there.
Right.
right. Yeah, the groundwater's there.
Okay.
But that is an idea, Lisa, that is a thought. Except how do you control
Cause you could, well, I'm
the
thinking,
usage, like, you know,
you
if,
could have it on you pump it and it only runs for so long, like a button, and it only runs for so long. I mean, I can't imagine.
There's no electricity out there.
Solar panel?
That's where you'd have to get to on that.
Yeah.
Well, the other question is are there any invasive species in Pickerel Pond?
I haven't been out on it.
Have to take the canoe down and go find out.
You take by kayak and go find
There
out.
you go. We do not differentiate between canoes or kayaks, that's all flotation.
Okay.
So, other than the well, would it make sense, I mean, I know we had talked at one point in time about some type of canoe/kayak launch.
Yes, that was gonna be my input on it, if we were to think of something. Sorry.
But I would think we would want maybe to do like a ramp, concrete ramp, as opposed to a dock, because if we put a dock in, we gotta
Right,
take it out and put it back in annually. Whereas if we just put a ramp so that you
Because
can
there's still snowmobiles,
there's that too.
right,
Yes.
that access off that trail there
Yes.
and
there
go
are.
across, so there, you'll see some use from that, more wear if you had a dock or a wooden thing.
Right.
So there may be some value to a concrete ramp, though my first thought goes to a dock type. But there's not a lot of movement there in the
No, but
ice.
I'm just thinking ice.
But it's not like Paugus.
True.
I think a dock leaves us open to more problems too, as far as safety and concerns if people
But
jump.
I agree with some sort of ramp that should be in there for access, something to get your canoe down, not to stand in the muck as you transit
Yeah, it's kind of
into-
hard because it is very mucky there and it's weedy right there.
Right.
Which is what we love about it, but
And it's very shallow. I don't see how a ramp is really the ramp is gonna get mucky. It won't have weeds, but
What's the alternative? I mean, I don't think, I don't think a dock is, I mean.
no,
I-
I'd leave it the way it is.
Yeah, I don't think, but I don't know that, long-term safety, et cetera, is the solution, but.
So maybe what we should do is figure out approximately how many people use it. Because if we don't get anybody using it, we don't need to spend
but
the
if
money
you don't
putting it
have,
out.
if you don't
don't
have
have
it there, they won't use it, so it's
Right.
a chicken and the egg.
It might be hard, yeah.
That's a long haul for carrying your kayak or your,
Not if you have the wheels on the back, you didn't buy the wheel package with yours?
Right. Or if you have two people and they have two kayaks and they're, the one carries the front, one carries the back.
I got the wheel package, you come over to the yard sale, I'll hook you right up this weekend.
So there's a gentleman, and I should have brought his card with me, that is now running a kayak rental place in the Weirs.
Yeah.
On the circle there.
Yeah.
And I met him this past week at the other ramp, at the fishing game ramp. And he was very interested in Pickerel Pond, because he loves it, he goes fishing there, he loves to go there. But he uses the Meredith ramp from Windsong Place, is it? it off
Yes.
of Windsong? Yeah.
I wouldn't know that, that's a pretty pricey area to go into.
But
It's just a road. Anyway, but he uses that to go and fish in there, and he will take people kayaking. He will meet you wherever you want with kayaks. I mean, it's a great little thing, and he's done well this summer, and he plans to come back next summer and do the same thing.
So would he be a good person to give a call to and ask what kind of ramp or approach we should put in?
I mean, the other thing to think about too, because there's only 3 or 4 places to park on the Windsong side. So that's why he said he doesn't take kayaks there very often. So that's why he was interested in our new parking area and whatever. And I told him you have to, portage it in for a bit. It would be interesting to do some research on ramps, just to see what's out there besides like.
You're not
It might
going,
be difficult to do a concrete ramp there just because of it is such a wetland. I wonder if there's like some kind of rubberized thing that you can roll down or some, and place down.
I would stay away from any aluminum or metal stuff, cause that disappears to the junkyard so quickly.
Yeah,
You know, if they're motivated enough to dig into it,
right.
which I doubt they are, but they'd be more motivated to do that.
Geogrid,
Geogrid.
plastic geogrid. So they've used it in parking lots that are particularly muddy, but, so it's plastic sheets that have different, I'm gonna say hexagonal, but they come in different styles of
They
block.
come in a roll that's 20 feet long or 10 feet long, and it has different,
Interlocking.
it has different, widths.
So
Yeah.
In the
like
hole.
Legos?
You know, and they use it to stabilize, roads that they use for logging and stuff like that, is some of the applications.
And
So it's hardy, it stands up to.
Center Harbor Beach parking lot is dirt and grass, and it gets rutted, and they use that, and it's no problems now. So I'm thinking, I don't know
Where
what
is
you
that,
think.
Center
Mike.
Harbor?
It's
Center
not
Harbor Beach parking.
unreasonable, but you still have to transition off the edge of the, shoreline into the forb and,
Yeah.
muck that's there, so,
I'm
you,
not-
you know, if it's $10,000 or $15,000 for a concrete ramp, fine, otherwise, you start getting in too much, it's crazy, so. I don't know what it cost.
so what I'll do, Deb gave me the kayak guy's cards. I will call him and ask him to meet me at Pickle Pond to look at where we would be launching from and see what his recommendation is.
Okay.
And if anybody else
Sounds good.
wants to come
Yeah,
on.
let me know
I
once you
can-
do that.
So,
I'll give you a call, Mike.
Dean, we're having soil erosion control workshop on the 21st, and I'll have several vendors there. So somebody who's doing geogrid, which is kind of why it was in the top of my mind. So if I could show him a picture, he might say yes or no that that's a good application.
Okay, did you put out a notification on this soil erosion workshop?
To selected groups, I didn't do a general one yet.
Okay, could you send it to me, please?
Sure, and
maybe
I'll send
you
it to
already
you too,
Okay.
yeah.
What was the date of that?
The 21st in Franklin, and then the 22nd in Nashua, I believe.
Is that during the day?
Yes, they always are, aren't they? Sadly. Yeah, from 9 to 3:30 at Franklin Falls Dam. And so we're having 6 stations and different presentations. It's not a trade show, it's a presentation by people who are utilizing stuff. Thank you for the plug.
Okay, good. So, when we go out there, we'll take pictures of it, and then I can show them to the people at the workshop.
Yep.
Good. Okay, anything else on Pickle Pond? Okay, NRI?
So I've been working on updating the natural resource inventory from 2009. I'd say I'm 75% done with what I can do. I have updated all the data and rewritten a lot of the sections, reorganized them as well. The only things that I was not able to update myself as far as data was the number of vernal pools, or like locations of them, dense softwood areas, and wildlife openings. Those are just, the dense softwood and wildlife openings are just GIS features that I'm not sure if I could accurately work on. And I mean, I used the most recent vernal pool data from the GIS coordinator in Laconia, but it matches the exact same stuff we had in 2009. And then I was speaking to somebody from New Hampshire, Fish and Game about the dense softwood stuff, and she said that if we come up with areas that we would like to be surveyed, like not surveyed, but looked at by Fish and Game, they can come out and confirm them and help delineate them. But as far as all the work that I've been working on, I'm also going to be adding in the climate change and regional management plans for like the watersheds and water resources. But aside from that, the only sections that I can't really write just yet is the fieldwork section. So I think we need to decide or have a little bit more direction on what we want to see for fieldwork specifically. And then the recommendation section, I was thinking, I think I will have the writing finished by the end of next week, and then I can send it out and everyone can review it, see what they think about the changes and recommendations that like you guys would all pull from that. I mean, we've got a lot from the old one that we can still work on, and I've jotted down a handful of ideas as well, but I think we should kind of pull everybody's ideas together and see how we can compile them together.
Okay.
Thank you for working on
Yeah,
that.
good,
Yeah.
thanks. Okay, so we know that there's a vernal pool at Homesey's property.
Mm-hmm.
So that's,
I don't think that's on there right now.
okay. Do we know of any others, any of the other projects? So the gardens, is the gardens?
The Gardens vernal pool is on there, yes.
Okay,
So I'm not sure if vernal pool is something we want to focus on for field work, if we want wetlands to be further delineated, if we have any areas that we know we want looked at. I know we talked about the Pickle Pond system maybe being something we could look at as a prime wetland. I'm not sure what kind of outside contracting we would want to come in and support that and like look through things with it.
okay.
Do we have to do a bid system for contractors?
Do we what?
Do we have to do a bid system for contractors?
Depends on the price, probably, yeah.
So what's the tipping price on bids?
I have no idea.
It's not 5,000, or,
Could be, I don't know.
okay,
Could be as low as 3, but it's low enough that it's a real pain, and it's high enough that, you know.
the one thing we could do is, what about asking,
I'd help if I could.
the wetland guy who was with DPW, Luke Powell? What about asking Luke to do a pro bono review?
You can always ask.
Review
Of the NRI?
yeah, oh, okay, all together, yeah.
And, he would only have to focus on, like, the wetlands, vernal pools, because he may, in his contracting business, have identified some.
Okay.
And okay. Okay. Anything else on the NRI?
I don't think so. I'll send it out as soon as I'm finished with the writing, so that everyone can review what's up there right now, and there'll be some changes based on the field work and some of the sections, but that's that, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then maybe if there's some areas where we need to do field work, we can, just do a cursory walkthrough and see how complicated that field work is, and can we do it ourselves? And, because we have different areas of expertise on the commission, and we might be able to
Cover that.
fill in some blanks or identify, like, do you have any vernal pools over, in Prescott Farm, in the environmental center there?
There's some near White Oaks. I don't know if it's on Prescott Farm though,
Okay,
off the top of my head. I'd have to look into that
yeah,
a bit more.
maybe on Harrington? Have you walked Harrington, Mike?
Yeah, it's been a while, but
I remember streams, but I don't remember any pools.
worth a walk again.
It's not owned by Bob Harrington
Oh,
anymore.
I know.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, all right. So, we only had one application?
Is that new business? Are we still in new business?
Oh, yes, we're still in new business.
Can I just speak quickly on two
Sure.
things? One of them, we've been seeing, it's interesting to see how some of these topics come up. And there's been a drumbeat recently through the state of New Hampshire, and they're roiling about current use. But then in the paper today is an article worth reading. In it, they talk about John Martin, who was married to Hillary May, who used to sit on this
Right.
board here, and they had a picture of him and their boy, and talking about the value of open space, trails, attraction, and stuff like that. So just a recognition in some outside reading, current use was created so that all of these large areas of land were not automatically broken up. And in this here, and I should have his name on it, Ned Therian was in this, and John Martin, and they talked about both these pieces of property. And I'd call out that there's other places in our community which could add value to our recreational attraction if they were properly managed. Boom, that's one, and that's just putting it out there.
Question, is that the Daily Sun? You said paper? Okay, thank you.
Yep, that's today's Daily Sun. So a couple things in there, some of that filters down, they're all up in arms up north about current use, and yet we should recognize the value of open land for recreation abilities.
All right, I'm sorry, go ahead. I had a question.
The only other thing that I'd like to bring up, and it would be a liaison with our public works, is they're out mowing the edges of the roads now. If you go into Meredith, there is a lot of Japanese knotweed growing on the side of the road. So when I go down Scenic Road or Parade Road, I'm starting to see these growths coming up. And if you look down on Mill Street in Meredith, right by the casing keg there was a huge infestation of Japanese knotweed, and they really had to get on it to bring it under control. And it's always harder later. So, my question would be, is when they do the edges of the road, the public works, and they mow these down, do they go back and do anything to inhibit future growth of it? Or how do they take care of that? Or do they just not care and it's a question that just costs more money. In the end, scenic road will not be scenic road when you can't see over the top of it. And that knotweed is real, and that's what it'll do. And that goes, some of this here could be brought on with, you go up the top of the hill, which was Lookoff Hill, but it's Aqua Soleil now, or Aqua whatever. And some of those, are they able to help us with controlling some of that stuff on the side of the road? Anyways, and so that's the end of that. And those are the only two things I wanted to bring up.
Thank
Yeah.
you. And the Japanese knotweed is easy to see now because it's in bloom.
Yeah, it's in.
So it's white bloom.
It is that white flower?
That's a white flower.
All right.
It's everywhere.
So if you had a question as to where it was, not anymore. Today it's easy.
So, yeah, and so once you cut it down, of course, it's the type of stuff that the pieces will take hold and grow up. So you really, you know, if it's cut and eradicated and burned, you know, if it's taken in one swipe or pulled out in one swipe, anyways, it's extra weight on whoever maintains our highways and byways, but it could come in to play when we can't see
Well, they
the scenic
treated,
view.
last year they treated the exit ramp from the bypass to 107 with, for something, I don't know if it was for knotweed or whatever, but they sprayed it, they cut it and they sprayed it.
Yeah.
But you know, you don't see that everywhere, you just, like, that was,
I-
that specific spot.
I don't know this, but before they did it, I noticed a lot of poison ivy coming up, and then after, so I don't know if that's what they were trying to
Oh,
identify.
do you know?
No, but that was the state, I believe.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think it was the city.
I've
So-
noticed more purple loosestrife this year too,
yeah.
and it's in bloom now.
So the New Hampshire Road Agents Association through the New Hampshire Municipal Association, you know, you can find out what recommendations they may have or trainings they may have for that kind of stuff, for road maintenance. And but I know any project where we've done outreach to, or that the road agents are involved in, that is their first thing. Do I have the staff and do I have the money? If you provide those two things, I'll consider it. So,
Right.
so maybe it's a grant.
Well, it's everywhere. I went to the Catskills last week and it was all the way there.
Yeah.
When it came from the west, then it was all the way there.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what we can do about it. But doing nothing is not the answer. So if we can figure out, you know, I know that Parks and Rec could not hire enough people to take care of their obligations, so they've had to subcontract work to landscapers, right?
Well, and didn't this come up at the Concom meeting last time, talking about invasive species removal? Because I thought we had this discussion, and so I had been, a landowner called me asking, and I put out a call, and I didn't get anybody emailing me back going, oh, sure, we specialize in it, or we'll do it for you, or, so I don't know if that's just not a lucrative thing for them to be doing.
It's a business opportunity, Mike.
Yep. All I gotta do is go to school, get a certificate, become certified.
You're certifiable. So am I.
Don't you worry.
I'll help you. Okay. Okay, so 98 Lucerne,
Just a lift that they put into an existing dock. It wasn't anything exciting.
that's good.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Nothing else, no other permit applications that came in. Okay, other business?
Something that came up sort of this morning, just to make you aware in case you get approached by anyone. So, North Water Marine, formerly of Thurston's, is redeveloping. Yesterday or the day before, they started to tear down one of their buildings. And we've been asked by a couple of different people about whether there should have been erosion control or not for that. And we reviewed it with them this morning. The way, it's just the way the site is and what they're doing, we determined that there was no need for erosion control. They weren't disrupting any surface. They were just taking the building off the foundation. So it's a metal frame building. So just if anybody asks,
That's what.
that's what's going on.
Okay.
They have, as you know, they have lots of plans for that property, and they'll be coming here.
On the 6th,
Yeah.
The when?
October 6th.
Okay, one of the things I would like is, I want an overall plan of what they're gonna do. I don't wanna know that we're taking down this building and then 2 months later, oh, we're gonna do this, and then we're gonna do this. And that's what happened along Scenic Road
Yep.
is,
So
so,
they're putting together their master plan for the whole property, and they intend to present that to zoning board when they go there on September 20th. So it should be available when they come here on the 6th.
okay. Good,
Yeah, we've made that very clear to them. It's important to,
have a plan.
you know, they're going to do this in stages, but for everyone to understand, you know, you may approve things in stages, but to understand what the end goal is altogether I think is very important. So this is a good point.
And there are a couple of pipes that go under the railroad tracks.
Yep.
That we used to sample. We used to sample the effluent from those pipes. They're
Okay.
just drainage.
Yeah.
Are they going to, so I would wanna know if they're gonna do anything with those pipes.
I believe the answer is no, but that's certainly something to ask about.
Okay,
We did ask them today to provide us pre- and post-construction drainage plans, so
great.
I told them that might be something that comes up in our meeting, so I think should probably be able to answer that for us.
Okay.
They didn't give any indication just yet, but
I mean, I think that with what has happened in this summer in terms of the amount of precipitation, we have to be much stronger when it comes to drainage and how you're gonna control your stormwater. Because, you know, we dodged a bullet with this Hurricane Ida. If we had gotten hit with Hurricane Ida, but it could be a much different thing. And one of the things that the Winnisquam Watershed Network is having a watershed management plan prepared. And I think once we get that, it's gonna be important to the NRI because they will identify some areas that would be candidates for being put in conservation, some lands. And it's, you know, they're not just focusing on Laconia, but they're also looking at like Gale Avenue, my understanding is that I talked to Amy Levisick, and the city is on board with doing something there to control the stormwater, putting in at least preliminary, right now, putting in rain garden. And I think the residents are in favor of a rain garden. They don't want jungle gyms and stuff like that, but a rain garden, they understand. And there are going to be other places in the city that we need to look at where we need to control the stormwater flow so that we don't get flooded. And part of it may be a philosophical change in the way that we look at our lakes. Our lakes are, in my opinion, are going to be needed, we're going to need to use them to store water. They're not just for recreational purposes, they are to store water so that we don't flood the people downstream. And that, that applies to not just the lakes, but the ponds. So we ought to look at ponds that will be valuable in a valuable resource for storing water. Pickle Pond, Pearly Pond.
My question is, are we now at a good place with Jewett Brook in terms of flooding or not flooding?
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean,
You'll know tomorrow morning.
Why is that?
It's supposed to rain tonight.
Well, I know, but I think we need to look at all of the tributaries.
And-
Durkee, Jewett,
Yeah. Oh, Durkee had a blowout, didn't it? Was it Durkee that had a blowout? Yeah.
Black Brook had a blowout.
Well, yes. Yeah.
So it's, and I sent an email to Carol Hall, the Guilford Conservation Commission, and they're having a meeting next week, is that what she said?
I think so, yeah.
And she's going to bring up the idea of what to do with Black Brook. Because we have those areas that the geomorphological investigation showed we need to do something.
Yeah.
And then, John, whatever his name is going to look at the Irwin Marine site and tell us what could be done there. Is that right?
I had asked him about what he thought could be another project or something with Black Brook, based on the fact that he worked on the geometric or geomorphic assessment. He said he'd look into it. He hasn't gotten back to me, but I can reach out to him or try and catch him on site this week, so and talk to him about that a bit more.
I wonder if, I don't know what the name of that pond is. I don't even know if it has a name. That is at the end of Black Brook, just before it goes down to Spinnaker Yacht Club. I wonder if it would be worthwhile talking to the state to see what we have to do to get a permit to dredge it. Because when I first came here, which isn't that long ago, there was never that much sediment in there. And it would be a major activity to remove not all of it, but remove it. And my understanding is that as part of Irwin's project over there, they took out a lot of the sawdust piles.
Mm-hmm.
So there would be less sediment from the sawdust piles coming into that area. So maybe now is the time to talk to DES about getting a permit. And we'd have to go to the
Pretty-
Corps of Engineers.
Pretty high this year.
What?
There's a lot of water in it.
Yeah, yeah.
Years ago, knowing from living on Black Brook, they used to dredge fairly regularly, and then I guess it became not recommended by DES. For whatever reason, they stopped dredging when I was probably in my early 20s.
Or did they dredge the whole
They used to,
brook?
they used to dredge by my house, they used to dredge the little tributaries. Yeah, they used to dredge.
Yeah.
And, then they stopped doing it, and I, for some reason, I'm having a memory of somebody saying, well, DES didn't think that was a supportive practice for stream health or whatever.
Right.
I just accepted it, but I'm just saying, that used to happen, so I don't know if that's part of, we wanna look at that as a management.
Well, I think if DES said it's not a good idea, then I think we need to ask them why it wasn't a good idea.
That would have been many, many years ago.
I was
Right,
gonna
and
say,
has
things
their
have
philosophy
changed. Yeah.
So,
And there's also the pond over in Southdown. When you come down the hill on Outer Bridge, it's on the left-hand side as you're going down the hill. And they came in and asked for our approval. This is a long time ago when I first started on the commission, to dredge that. And there was an issue with turtles in the pond, and so, and
That a good thing or a bad thing?
well, it was, the turtles were
Well,
in
if
the
they're
process
pulling
of.
their weight.
were-
They didn't wanna
they
dredge
were-
the turtles.
They were laying their eggs,
Oh.
and so, you know, so that, it's the timing of when you
Oh,
do it.
okay, yeah, yeah,
But,
oh,
but
okay.
that's a drain, you know, that drains the wetlands that are up. And we got, you know, we have other places in Southdown, we got those two other ponds. Two other ponds.
Yeah,
So in preparation for, you know, what could happen, I mean, not that I'm trying to,
so the
Exaggerate.
the pond on Black Brook, you're thinking of it as a potential reservoir for a flooding situation, and so that it could hold the water and settle the water before it goes into the lake? Is that what you're
Right.
thinking? Okay,
right,
all right.
and to settle out any sedimentation that's coming, you know, and I would think that the work that's being done over in front of Lowe's in that parking lot, you know, there's gonna be more sedimentation there that's gonna come from that.
Is that the pond that's near 1212 Union?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, so maybe we'd have to, if you dredged it, you'd have to create potentially some type of a dam, you know, even if it's just a loose rock wall to hold the water in there some of the time, you know, type thing.
Yeah, I doubt that the water would go percolate into the ground because it's
Yeah.
at the same level as the lake.
Right.
But the lake, I went out on the lake once this summer, and I think it was about a foot higher than full.
It's been high, yes.
I think it was 504 instead of 503.
Yeah, it's close, it's getting close to normal, but we keep having rain, so.
Mike, didn't you say at that area that Dean's talking about, that the water was actually coming in from the lake at one point when you were out there? Did I remember you saying that?
The pond by.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I thought, for some reason.
It'd have to be pretty high up, but it's
Yeah.
been a full summer. But that adds to the, sedimentation of it. What do we see? Besides Black Brook, there's at least 3, if not 4 other brooks that flow into that off that hillside,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
if I remember.
I guess what I'm saying is I think that we need to encourage the city to start to look for ways that we can control the amount of water that we can get from precipitation. Because it's, we just have to learn from the situation like we've had this summer with all the precipitation, plus Ida and, Ida missing us. If Ida had been here, we would definitely be the Lakes City.
Yep.
Not my house.
Hmm?
Not my house.
Okay. Any other business?
Sorry, Tom.
No, go ahead.
There's a community fest. I didn't bring my calendar. Were you gonna bring it up, or? I've forgotten what the date is. Was it community fest down here? City Hall, I'm thinking, in a few weeks,
I think it's at the mill.
at the mill. Well, okay. So
Yeah, same.
I've forgotten what the date is. But anyway, so the Conservation District's gonna have a table. And lots of these, like, groups like the dog park, they're gonna have a table. So I didn't know if the Conservation Commission ever came up with a brochure or any kind of outreach thing that we wanted to. I would put, I'm not suggesting that you have to have a table there, but I'm just saying if there's any materials you want me to put out for the Conservation Commission, I can do that. I'll probably use my table to do things like that, to have several organizations that probably aren't gonna be there.
Are you gonna have things on, invasive species? I mean, I think we still have
One of the things.
printed stuff on that, don't we?
Yeah, I think I have some stuff, or I could print some up. And one of the things that this community fest, I vaguely remember them saying they wanted an activity, so I was thinking I was gonna put up the, that old chestnut that you keep borrowing, the watershed model.
Oh.
I thought I was gonna have that as my activity, but yeah, and then the handouts. So I could do something on invasive species.
You'd always check downstairs in the cardboard box collection
Right.
and see if there's anything that can be utilized and clean up a spot.
I have tons
Marie
of brochures
Kondo,
from New Hampshire Lakes. If you wanted to have some.
Sure, I can put any of that stuff
Okay.
out. Anyway, I just wanna make you aware of that date and get in touch with me if you want me to put something out.
I think it's mid-October.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not tomorrow.
During Pumpkin Fest?
Instead of, I guess.
Oh. Okay. Oh, yeah. I'd be happy. I have
Did you have something else?
more moons
one more
and
thing.
everything.
So we talked about it a little bit this week in planning about some ordinance discussions, and one of them that we were talking about was green space. And so I was talking with Rob, and we thought about, some of our green space requirements for just one or two zones is way higher than a couple of the other locations, like other communities around us. And we were talking about implementing green space bonuses in exchange for density. So something like if someone wants to come in, they're developing, they want to go over the green space requirement or they would like to have less green space in exchange for a more dense development. And we thought about maybe some kind of exchange where, yeah, you can get more density if you do a rain garden or maybe rooftop gardens, invasive management plan, some kind of restoration, drainage upgrades, things like that. And so we kind of just wanted to float around, see what you thought about a program like that, and if that's something that you guys are supportive of, what would be something that would really stand out as like, yeah, this project would deserve a density bonus based on what they're putting in their slightly smaller green space.
What zones in particular are you looking at?
So I think the focus is, so our commercial resort zone, we are at a 60% requirement for green space, and the highest in any of the communities that I compared to was 35%. So I think that's one area that we were looking at, maybe decreasing it, but allowing some kind of
Is this your area? You're talking about commercial resort?
Yep,
yeah.
yep. Everything in blue there, yeah.
And some of the other ones we were looking at was the residential, general, and apartments. which we have at 60%. A lot of the places around us are between 40 and 60, so I think
So
Bob was
there's
maybe looking at a small deduction in that as well.
So they don't get a green space bonus, they wanna use more green space,
But
in exchange for that, they're increasing the density, and one would imagine providing housing for the people who live here.
So, I'm sorry, can I jump in? So, first question is, what are the other areas you're comparing? Are they really comparing oranges to oranges, or is it apples to oranges? And then the next thing I'm thinking of is, I think each one of these maybe potential recommendations that you're saying to offset, they themselves have would have varying effectiveness. And so those should be rated too, you know, so, I imagine that's what you were thinking, but,
yeah.
so the first question is, what other areas are you comparing?
So, so I looked at Lakes Region and outside of Lakes Region. So as far as the Lakes Region communities, I looked at Guilford, Belmont, Tilton, Meredith, Moultonborough, Wolfboro, and Tuftonboro. And outside of the Lake Region, I looked at Plymouth, Keene, Portsmouth, Goffstown, and Somersworth. In general, Belmont, Guilford, and Meredith and Goffstown were a lot more restrictive than Laconia is. But we're kind of like in the middle of the requirements for Lakes Region and non-Lakes Region areas. I only have one copy because this came on the agenda as of today and yesterday. But I can send this out. It's kind of just a rundown.
Please, I'd like to see it. If you send it to me,
Absolutely,
I'd
yeah.
observe that.
So I think going though, Dean, this really heavily impacts your thoughts about flood resilience. I mean, this discussion right now ties very much into what you were talking about earlier, which I'm labeling flood resilience, but storing water and managing water in a way that either makes it available or keeps it clean or doesn't allow flooding, or, I mean, that's kind of where I thought you were going with that.
So we're talking about changing the ordinance to reduce.
That would be, yes, that would be part of the process, yes.
So what if instead of changing the ordinance, we looked at it on a case-by-case basis? And so that kind of like what we did with the gardens and the buffer around the vernal pool. So we took a different approach with that because it made sense. So in a case where a project comes and the amount of green space is large, but there's an opportunity to change it, to give them some relief without changing the ordinance. So it's on a case-by-case basis. You come and some people might not think we're treating everybody the same because.
And you wouldn't be, because it's going to be based on the circumstances.
Right.
Yeah, we could probably fashion it to be like a conditional use type of situation, where this is what we're proposing, COMCON would weigh in on it, and then you would make a recommendation to either planning staff or planning board, depending upon where we are in the process or what it is. I mean, part of the discussion, and this is not, and we're early in this, so I think it'd be great to share the chart, just so you can see it in green and white or whatever colors we're using. But anyway, but we're a long way from the finish line. But part of the discussion is just to use as an example, in our current RG zone, which is the brighter yellowy orange type, it surrounds the downtown for the most part. So Pine Street, Baldwin, Bowdoin, those kinds of streets are RG. A mixture of a mixture of two things, a mixture of lot sizes, predominantly smaller lots, but not necessarily, and a mixture of single-family, duplex, sometimes 3 and 4 quads, but a lot of two-family, a lot of three-family type situations. But they're all on small lots, and they currently do not have the required 60% green space. You know, they got a 6,000 square foot lot, they've got 1,500 square foot house and garage, and they've got a driveway, and they've got, I mean, you know, you start doing the math, it's like they're at 45, 50% at best, you know. And it's been that way for decades, not centuries, for decades. And it works. Obviously, the stormwater is going someplace, and that's where we get to what you were talking about in terms of you just can't take every piece of land and make it minimal amount of green space. You know, there has to be some thought to this. And if you're a property that's on Durkee Brook or Jewett, I guess it is. Then you probably don't want to give them relief.
Right.
But if you're up on Highland Avenue, it probably can, you know, type thing. So yeah, I think some type of a conditional use or whatever we want to call it, type would probably be the way to go, you know. And giving the bonuses is, you know, kind of like in our cluster ordinance, we allow you to put the houses close together, but the formula is based on your total acreage. So if you've got 20 acres and we allow 4 units per acre, then you get 80 units. But we do allow bonuses, you know, to allow extra, if you also then do amenities and things like that. Well, we have had a couple of clusters where they decided not to do any amenities. They just said, I'll put the X number of houses, but they'll be close together, and then we'll have this piece of land that's open. They don't want to do amenities, and that's fine. So it's kind of an option. You don't have to, you know, if you do a cluster, you don't have to take the bonus situations, but most of them do, quite frankly.
Yeah.
So I think if we fashion it in that kind of a way that it's there if you want to take advantage of it. But I think we need to look at our green space calculations in general, because I think we're a little bit out of whack in some instances, not all of our instances, but in some instances, I think we're a little out of whack. But I'm not the decision maker. You know, I'm proposing. That's all.
So when you're saying you're out of whack if we get a new plan in, and the formula you're using on the plan for green space is out of whack. That's what you're saying is out of whack, that formula.
I think we're a little high in some instances.
So where I'm going with this is, does the city already have a hypothetical? I'm guessing that based on all your developed lots and all the area, you have an idea of a number that you think is your green space, but you're saying this is off because a lot of those lots are non-compliant. They're much smaller green spaces. So what is the real number of how much green space is in the city?
Right.
And then the question then becomes, if you want to reduce the amount of green space, do you have a target number? And is there going to be any kind of software keeping track of this? If we're doing this on a case-by-case basis, if you've got we want to reduce green space by only 10%, but if we're doing it case-by-case, we're not keeping track of what that 10%, you know, we could end up losing 20% of the green space because we're doing it on a case-by-case basis rather than some sort of formalized, standardized thing. So I'm just saying.
Yep. You know, you're right, and like I said,
I know you're in the
we're at
early
beginning,
stages.
and we gotta, you know, we gotta think this through, and we've got to try to figure this out. Yeah.
So is there a way that?
Yeah,
would it be beneficial to look at it from a perspective of, what if we had an overlay district where these things were allowed, but we excluded the areas where we're like, we do not want any green space reductions in these areas, so they're not part of that district?
And then you could keep track of the percentage
Yeah,
as we go.
I think through GIS, we might be able to. Yeah, I hear you, and you're right, we could go way too far
If we're not
fairly
tracking
quickly
it.
if we're not careful, yes.
Yeah.
Yep. It, in some respects, it's not necessarily a goal to reduce green space overall, but rather to help facilitate some infill in our already dense areas that there really isn't green space now, you know.
Right.
And, you know, something like a Pine Street area type situation where if someone has a single-family house, if we were to allow ADUs or even a full-blown second apartment, or whatever you want to call it, in most cases, they can't do it without a variance because A, their lot's non-conforming already, B, they don't have the 60% green space already, you know, they're already used it up.
Yeah.
And so if we could, if there was some formula of this is a good thing with minimal impact in this particular lot, in the 3 or 4 lots right around it, then let's do that type of thing. I think that's what we're kind of looking at, more than just saying, if we're now 80% green space in the entire city, we want to get to 75, that's not the goal.
Well, the motivation is being able to increase livable area.
Yeah,
I understand.
creating workforce housing and
Yeah.
that
Yep.
sort of effect. And the available land is out on Parade Road, but that's not where you should have that kind of housing. You know, it should be in the downtown area where it's walkable, and this is where the services already are, and we already have the infrastructure in place, the water, the sewers, everything is already there. So to add another 100 units of housing spread out over, you know, 100 acres across our, you know, greater downtown area would be beneficial, but yet probably minimal impact in terms of effect to, at least to the environment anyway.
No, I agree.
I feel like we do that now already. I feel like we take things on a case-by-case basis, and a lot of times they get their variance.
We do, when the property owner goes the extra step to go to the boards. But what you don't see is the property owners that come in and ask, can I do this, do that, and we tell them what the rules are, and they go away. They're not gonna do that. So, you know, it's a missed opportunity, potentially a missed opportunity there in that, because they don't have, if they had 300 more square feet in their lot, they could do something, but otherwise it requires a variance, and it requires this, and they're like, yeah, I'm not gonna do that, you know.
And they go ahead and do it anyway, or they just,
No, they don't do it.
Scrap the
Some yes, some do it anyway. In most cases, they just don't do it, you know, they just, well, I was just thinking I'd do it, but I guess I won't, you know.
But if we did it by a case-by-case basis, they're still gonna have to,
They would have to do, yes, they would have to do those extra steps, but we could at least tell them from a staff perspective,
That it's,
here are your chances, you know, your situation is a good chance of succeeding. Whereas now we have to say, you know, maybe, maybe not, probably not in some instances. I mean, you know, we're kind of trying to judge it on a case-by-case basis too, and, you know, there are some situations where, you know, the house is already 5 feet from the property line all the way around, and they, you know, they have no room, and they, you know, it's like,
Can I build on my neighbor's property?
yeah, I mean, you know.
He's not up on the.
Where you gonna go, you know, and in
Turn
many cases, they don't even know where their property line is, and when we show them where their property line really is, they go, oh, you know, you know, so, but, you know, you know, we're looking, just as an aside, you know, we're looking at the ADU ordinance, because there is a feeling among some that it's probably more restricted than it needs to be. But we have had those conversations with people who have come in and want to do ADUs, and they go, oh, that's too complicated, I don't want to do that. Whereas maybe if it was a simpler process, more people would do it. I don't know.
So Taylor, I really am still thinking the whole idea though about the rain gardens and green roofs, all that other stuff that you were talking about as part of the equation is a very positive step, so.
Okay, anything else on it? So I have a couple of other things. One is Walmart. When Walmart put that addition on, there was this issue with the pond that's on, and I don't know where the pond line is, whether it's in Laconia or Guilford. You know, there was the pond that was to address the stormwater.
right,
Okay, so the question I have, given that I've already talked about stormwater, is that pond up to snuff? Because if that pond blows out, Black Brook has a big problem.
So there
I
are
believe
two.
it's in Guilford, but we'll double check.
So I think that this is an opportunity for us to work with Guilford and say, you know, okay, you guys have to do something about this.
Right.
Because it's gonna come, it's our problem, because we're gonna be downstream of this.
Most of the parking lot is in Guilford.
Yep.
Part of the building is in Guilford.
Right. But I don't know where because that stormwater system, quote-unquote system, was, you know, that was
Right,
a major concern when they were coming in for.
Yep.
I thought they addressed most of it, I thought it was in pretty good shape.
Right, but the problem is that now, you know, it's been, how long's it been, 10 years, 5 years, 8 years since they did that? Are they maintaining that pond the way they're supposed to? And given the increase in the amount of precipitation like we've had, is it up to snuff?
Okay.
What does the Laconia sewage treatment plant do? Does it treat sewage, or does it treat stormwater? It was a combined
It is
system.
primarily for sewage. There is some, there are some storm drains that their outflow is the sewer system, so that water goes through the sewer plant. And there, of course, is seepage from leaks in the pipes, et cetera, that gets groundwater and stormwater into the sewer plant. But primarily, it's sewer. The stormwater is not treated. Most stormwater is not treated, other than through natural means, i.e. it gets put into a swale, or it gets put into a swampy area, or, you know, sometimes it just goes down a pipe and gets discharged to the lake, but.
So the sewage is treated and then it goes into Winnisquam?
No,
No.
No,
it's down to Franklin.
it goes to Franklin.
Goes to
It's
Franklin.
pre-treated in Laconia,
Okay, and then it
and then
goes
it
to
goes to Franklin for,
And
and
then
then it gets,
Manchester drink it.
yeah, gets dumped into the
Right, into the
Pemigewasset or
Merrimack,
the,
yeah,
or the
right.
Winnipesaukee or the Merrimack. I'm not sure exactly where the three rivers are there, but anyway. The outlet of the
That
Franklin
goes into-
system
goes
is
into the
the
Merrimack,
river.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, because I've gone by there, you know, and Deb and Barb Chapman have done an extraordinary job this summer as lake hosts. How many boats have you done?
Thousands.
Literally. I mean, you need to go down there on a well, it's too late now. You go down there on a Saturday, and how many boats would you do on a Saturday or a Sunday?
150 or 180.
Wow.
yeah.
And that's between like 7 o'clock in the morning and 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So they don't get all of them.
Yeah.
But, so why don't, tell everybody what you found.
They
You
know
say,
that. I'm
"No,
not
no,
worried
no,
about that.
No, I think it's important.
We talked about this before. It's fine.
No, anyway, so when you go down to that ramp, it's clean, there's no garbage because they pick up the garbage. The only thing they don't do is they don't deal with the porta settings.
We don't clean out the porta potties.
Oh my God. Oh my God, that's-
And we don't use them.
Well, I heard an interesting statistic today. So in 2020, there was over 10,000 new boats registered in the state of New Hampshire.
Jesus.
New boats, not re-registration.
Right.
And 30% of them were registered for Winnipesaukee.
Wow.
That's 3,000 new boats supposedly on Winnipesaukee. Now, obviously, people don't necessarily use a boat exclusively on one lake, but, because they're in and out on the ramps, but, anyway,
Can you speak to how many boat registrations were,
total-
in Laconia? In
total,
Laconia?
no, I don't know that number.
Right.
No, I don't know.
I know that you cannot buy a new boat.
Right.
You can't buy, there are no new boats for sale, and during the summer, there were no boats to rent on Winnisquam.
Right.
So,
They were just saying they were all reserved, you mean? It was.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
people have, signed up, so.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
But the water treatment plant, or what was were you worried about the way it smelled? Is that what you were worried
no,
about?
no, I, when I go down there sometimes, I can tell that it's treating sewage
Yeah.
by the smell, I can tell.
And when it's rained a lot, there's definitely must be like an overflow, or not an overflow, but
Yeah, no, it's an overflow.
Well-
I hate to tell you, it is.
it's
Yeah, so I mean, the VAT systems, so it's the Winnipesaukee River Basin
Yeah.
project.
Oh, yeah, I know.
That's, okay, because you said Laconia, I was like, do we have our own sewage plant?
No, I'm
Okay.
I'm talking about the Laconia sewage treatment plant
On Water Street Extension.
on Water Street.
Yeah, okay, that part of that system, yeah, so they have big vats and they're treating it with bacteria. They have rakes that go through it and they treat it with bacteria and all that, but occasionally they will have, sometimes for too much water, and that goes to your thing again about keeping water on the land rather than having it in the storm drains and overflowing the sewage treatment plant, but sometimes they just have equipment failures and they have to let it go, so, is what I have been
Right,
told.
and that's exactly how Winnisquam got, was killed in the past, because of too much organic material and too much bacteria, and they used up all the oxygen, and the lake died, so, anyway, okay, so the last thing that I have is, Deb and I went up and met with the Taylor Community Environmental Committee, when did we do that, a month ago?
yeah, at least, yeah.
And they're really amazing, just volunteers. And what they do is they have gardens, they have,
Recycling.
recycling. I mean, they're really doing a lot. And how do we feel about including Paula and her husband? Anyway, the chair people of the committee on our distribution of Conservation Commission notifications, as a way to try to get them to come and participate on the commission, or so that we can work with them when they're trying to do something. I mean, how do people feel about doing that?
On the email distribution list?
Mm-hmm. And then when you do the minutes, send them a copy of the minutes. So they can see what we do, and then they can say, because they were mildly interested, but they didn't really know what we wanted to do. They were mildly interested in participating on this commission.
Okay.
And they're people coming up with all kinds of ideas outside the box.
And maybe we can learn something too.
Oh, there's no question.
So alternatively to that would be, on the city website, we have a feature where
Yeah.
you can sign up to be notified of different boards and commissions. So they could go on there and sign themselves up to receive Conservation Commission-like agendas and whatever else we might publish. But we certainly be more than happy to put them on the list. And just, do you use a mail list or do you do individual?
I use a mail list.
Yeah, so we can just put their names on the mail list.
Okay, and I'll give you their
Okay, yeah, just for
their
me.
email
That's
addresses.
easy.
Okay. Staff report?
You're up to date with her NRI. She just told you more than we're gonna have her 3-month review here in a couple of weeks, so.
As long as
more
you're
than I
learning
do right
something.
Okay, anybody have anything else? Mike, you wanna make a?
I move we adjourn.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion?
Welcome back,
favor?
Wesley.
Thanks. Good to be back.
Yeah, glad you're back, glad you're safe.
It was fine.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Couple
Aye.
bears.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, my jeez.
I think one of the reasons it would be good to have them on the list is because we need them to